tired.
Oh, okay. Now we're right on time, perfect. I call this January Utility Advisory Commission meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we will take any comments from the public. Seeing no takers, moving right along. Would any board or commission member want to take anything off the consent agenda? No, I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Carries. New business. Mr. Green, number 1, discussion of bylaws.
Well, the ordinance 2474 was approved creating this board in December 15th. One of the items under Section 2G is the board is to, or the commission is to adopt bylaws. I had attached a copy of the Planning Commission bylaws for review. However, when I was reviewing it today, I realized it was probably not terribly apropos for this body. And so I have edited in an attempt at least to give us some talking points to begin the discussion. What I would propose we do is work through, tell me what you like or don't like on this. Since we do have for the February meeting the 3 utility assessments to review, I'd suggest we consider this at the March 5th meeting. So I will take your comments on this, make appropriate changes, and probably run it by the attorney, make sure I haven't done anything totally out of line, and then present it to the board or the commission for adoption or consideration on the 5th of March. So we can just kind of step through it. One of the items in the very beginning, it just talks about creation. The board was created by ordinance 2474, and the membership would comply with the Gardner Code of Ordinances, which would basically tie into the ordinance itself, plus the membership application process in the City Council's rules of conduct. Organization, following the Planning Commission, there would be 3 officers. One would be the chairperson, vice chairperson, and then there would be a secretary, which would be officially appointed to record minutes and keep the records. The definition, basically, the chairperson calls the meetings, officiates the meetings, can call special meetings. The vice chair would act on behalf of the chair in the chair's absence, and the secretary would be appointed by the city administrator, and as was mentioned, would be the custodian of the records and the keeping of the records. Attendance, excuse me.
Sorry. Would that appointment of the secretary be from the commission?
No, yes,
no. So it would continue to probably be someone.
Probably continue to give Cindy an official title as secretary.
Well, right. We used to have clerk of the board.
Right.
So, okay.
Right. So now that would be a staff member, and in the future, once the utility department is up and running, it would just be under the control of the utility department.
Okay.
Attendance is defined in the council rules of conduct. Go into meetings, just reiterates the fact that you all would meet on the first Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock in the city council chambers. And then annually, which you all had done last meeting, would adopt a meeting schedule. So if there is any variance from your standard, it would be in that document, which would then be published. special meetings that can be called by the chair or the vice chair and held at any time fixed in a notice for the chair, or for the meeting. The only proviso is giving 7 days' notice for that special meeting. I don't know if that's acceptable to you all or not, or would you like more or less, or?
It's gonna be an arbitrary number regardless of what we do, so a week seems fine by me.
Seems fair.
Talks about quorum, at least 3 members per the ordinance. The agenda, what I was trying to do, which I apologize, the last 2 times I failed to do this, is my goal would be to get the agenda to you all the Friday before a meeting, so you'd have a weekend to peruse the documents. Set that up at 6 days, which would put it at the Friday before. Then we'll have it.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Back on, notification in section 2. Notice may be made by telephone or mail. Would that be email or electronic mail
Or electronic correspondence.
or electronic correspondence of some type?
We can always add, let's see, where was that?
I just wanna make sure that we're not held to,
The middle of section 2 under Article 4.
yeah.
Okay. Telephone, mail, or electronic mail.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're not held to, writing a letter or.
Yes. Or email. Or if there's a better, is there a better term than email? You guys are computer guys.
I would say electronic correspondence.
Electronic
That way it
correspondence.
could be
A text or it could be.
whatever, or, I don't know if Sydney's one, I know originally, I don't remember if Jan set it up or who did, but we, on the Google Calendar, it requests all of us. I don't know if you guys did that too. And it shows up in Outlook as well, in our Gartner account. I don't know if did you handle any of that? Okay, well, we can already respond to that and kind of give an idea.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Have you ever seen that?
Good.
Yeah. So, we've never really used it for anything, everybody just gets an email, but could use that too.
Electronic correspondence, okay. Anything else on that page that?
Do you wanna guarantee the 6 days, or do you wanna put in the 6 days? Or do you just wanna say available ahead of time and we can shoot for 6 days?
I would rather put it in and make it.
Formal?
Yes, I would. I just said, because there's always something comes up. And we might, before we get the packet to you and have to get subsequent information. But I think it would be better just to go ahead and say, we need to get it to you that
Okay.
Friday.
Okay.
And just,
Okay with that?
if it's not an absolute, sometimes these things can slide. Obviously, proof positive standing before you. Okay, conduct of meetings, following the planning commission, just following Robert's Rules of Order. Please don't ask me for analysis of Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
The next one, order of business, is from the planning commission. I know we don't do a roll call. This is the one section I didn't get edited before I printed it off and showed up here. So I think I'd like to change that to the what we're doing now, which is basically approval of minutes, basically amend that to reflect the current agenda order we're using now.
Well, unless we want to make a line item that says approval of minutes, right now we just usually throw it under consent agenda. So we could either separate it out or just leave it under consent.
Okay.
I don't really have a huge issue either way.
Let's go with, okay, that's an excellent. I think what I need to do is amend this just to reflect our current order on the agenda. And then it talks about if we, the commission wishes to amend the order, they would do so by a majority vote of those present. And also the commission may consider items not on the agenda with a majority vote. Talking about staff reports, this is where we get into this. Staff reports on all agenda items shall be prepared and provided to the commission at least 6 days prior to the scheduled meeting. That way we would hit that Friday we were just talking about. Continuances, this is following planning commission. Any item may be continued on recommendation of staff or a commission member. Continuing items may be tabled and recalled at the request of staff or the commission.
Do they put in their order, in the order of business then, old business?
You know, they do not, but I think that would be something we would wish to add. So go with old business and then new business. So we'd have the.
I realize we really don't, normally we don't have anything that's tabled, but if we did, it probably should go under new.
Right, so consent agenda, then old business. And then we go to new business. New order.
And then just I know you said you hadn't updated it, but anywhere planning is, we just replace with utility advisory.
Yes. Right, and actually in this document I just designated it, you would show up only as commission. It says utility advisory, but yeah, I'll scratch any of the planning. That one was missed. Section 5 talks about people appearing before you making comments. Commission may at its discretion entertain public comment from members of the community or individuals or their representatives who believe they will be affected by the commission's actions. Whenever a person or entity appears before the commission, the chairperson will follow procedures for the registration and conduct of speakers. And then there's a document to the back that has been edited from the planning commission that talks about public comment. The second item allows the chair to reasonably basically control the length of the presentation so we don't go on too long. Commission action. This is compiled and edited from several sections from the Planning Commission document. Essentially, after discussion of an item, it goes on to say the commission will make a motion, report action regarding, basically make a motion at the conclusion of the discussion for action items. Reiterates that the chair will not make or second motions. Upon receiving a second, the motion may be discussed, and upon the call for question, or at the discretion of the chair, brought to a vote. A motion to amend, if necessary, must be voted on first. So if a motion was made and there's a motion to amend, you handle that first, then you move to the next item. Voting shall be by voice ballot unless there's a dissent, and if there is a dissent, then the chair, at the chair's discretion, can call for a roll call. If there is if any member has a conflict of interest, they will state that they do have a conflict and leave the room during the vote. Also, a member can abstain at their discretion. However, if there is a tie vote, an abstention would be considered a no vote, which is kind of, following somewhat the Planning Commission. They were getting into a lot more detail because they were making recommendations on basically legislative issues on planning to the council. So it had a little more language there. But I thought in this case, it would be subject to your all's concurrence. If there is an abstention, it would be a no. We could just leave it as an abstention, and if we do have a tie vote, we have a tie vote. It's something for your all's thought. That's an issue or not.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if we had a tie vote, then we could have a motion to table it. Whereas if we had a no vote, we've already addressed the issue, so we'd have to bring it back up as a new issue again, right?
That'd be true, because if you had the full complement of commissioners, there would be no tie.
Correct. So it's only when we wouldn't have everybody here, which then you'd basically want to table at that point, right? Because you'd want to continue that discussion further.
then, based on that, maybe what we should say is if there is a tie vote, the item will be continued to the next meeting.
But it may, because we could always bring it up for a revote after further discussion.
Absolutely.
So it may be.
And I guess the revote could include a motion to continue.
Correct.
Okay, so we're just gonna, how about just scratching that last sentence?
Yes,
Okay.
sounds great. Does anybody else have a comment?
Another item too, after considering an item on I would suggest maybe we scratch beginning if, after considering an item, a member merely wishes to abstain from voting, his abstention shall be treated as a vote with the majority. Following that, if you do have a tie, then you could entertain a motion to continue.
Right, so if we just scratch if after considering all the way down, then you can let the cards fall as they may, and then we could still have further discussion, revote if necessary, and or table it.
Shouldn't abstentions be treated as an abstention period? I mean, or would it go on the record as a vote with the majority?
Well, that's what, if we take this out, it would just show up as, on the record as abstention. I didn't want to put in, or I have a conflict of interest, I can't. So that's probably what we want, because you really don't want an abstention leaning one way or the other, you know, just because.
And the worst case is you will just have a tie vote.
Right, and then we can figure out what we have to do with that.
Okay. You scratch that one too. Okay.
Come up on 8 and 9.
Section 7, just record of proceedings. The secretary will take minutes and present those to the commission for approval, as we're doing now. So another one falls into the tie. If there is a tie vote of the commission on any item which the commission sits as a recommending body, so this would be one of the areas in which you make recommendations to the city council, such a tie vote would be considered a failure to recommend, so it can proceed to the city council without recommendation. The only case I can see where that might be is if it is an issue that is time sensitive and needs to get to the city council.
But I would hate for that to force it to be a no recommendation if it's not time sensitive.
Right.
If it's something that we've got 2 months to decide on to get to the city council, or we know that it can't get to city council because of the scheduling of getting it on city council is gonna take a month and a half anyway, then you hate for it to already be decided as a no recommendation when maybe we need to call a special meeting or wait till the next regular meeting or whatever. Need more information, so we tabled it just because, had a tie.
If we scratch that, then that will give you the option to, if you do have a tie, then you could, one of the follow-up motions would be a motion to proceed with no recommendation, if that's your choice.
Right.
But it can be handled in your subsequent motion clause.
Right.
I would recommend we scratch that one. You know, down the road, as if it becomes unmanageable as the conduct of the commission develops, you see it's an issue, then you can amend these at any time.
Right. I don't see a problem with that.
Nope.
And then we talk about revote, it's kind of a redundancy for the item 6, that just reiterates the fact that a revote can be is on the table.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem with that. It just seems, doesn't really need to be in there, I guess, because
Okay.
somebody could make the motion to say, we'd like to revote, but
Nothing.
I I don't care if it's in there really, it doesn't say one way or the other.
Why don't we scratch that, we've already got it covered. Simple. Cross-communication, see how you all feel about this. Basically, this is just discussions directly with the public, between each other. I'll let you all decide if that's a problem for you or not.
I would say we could either change that to just say that the commission will follow, COMA, or because what is it, 2474 already states that, right, before it calls out we have to have bylaws in 2G, we could just scratch that one.
Okay.
Or, and I don't know, I mean, obviously they voted on 2474 as written, and it just says there will be bylaws, but I don't know if their intention is eventually some of those details that are in there get put in the bylaws, and they just left them there because we didn't have bylaws at the time. I mean, because we could move those in here, but of course that'd require a new vote on, or an amended 2474.
Well, since it's already covered, if this is not a major issue to you all, you could scratch it very easily. If there is an issue or it becomes a problem, or, just from observation, the attendance here is not large, there isn't a lot of discussion, it's not disruptive. I think if you should end up in a situation where it becomes disruptive, it might be something to consider. But as chair, you control the meeting, so you can always gavel things.
I'm having difficulty with the term cross-communication. I don't really understand what it means.
Is that referring to, Mark sitting back saying, while someone else is discussing something, basically not being able to be heard by everybody? Is that what it's?
That's part of it. Part of it is, discussions directly between the audience and the deliberating body, you all, or else between individual members without being heard by the public. I don't have a strong recommendation one way or the other.
I don't mind. I don't know about, the questions must be directed to the chairperson. I mean, that wouldn't preclude us from you.
No, it would not. And I think too, if you look at the planning commission, since they do have legislative power in that on the land use, there's a lot more issues, and you have the applicant, but there's a lot of exchange. Most of their meetings are exchanged between commission and applicant. So therefore, instead of having an applicant in the gallery yelling at them.
After further thought on this, your comment is more pertinent, because I think the reason that it states specifically the chairperson is if you're following Robert's rules, everything's coming through and going back out. So the idea isn't so much that we're hanging back, it's that you're calling out Lee and vice versa, and you weren't recognized and controlled in a Robert's rules kind of manner. So you guys are just going back and forth yelling at each other for no apparent reason, or you want to argue about something, but it didn't go through recognition. So it's probably not a bad thing to go in there, but I'm guessing it's probably already addressed in Robert's rules. So again, it probably doesn't matter if it's in there or not, but the way it's written, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I just assume remove it, because the way it's written is not clear enough. So it's probably best just to remove it and we'll just go by Robert's rules.
Okay. I'm actually fine with whatever, either way. As I read it, it's gone. Article 6 talks about conflict of interest. So if a member would have a conflict of interest on an item, they need to state for the record they do, and vacate the chair. They basically leave the room while the vote's being taken and return. If the vacation due to a conflict eliminates a quorum, then the item would need to be continued to the next meeting.
I guess that's okay too, but I don't know if we need them to vacate their chair since they already aren't allowed to participate in the discussion. Right? I mean, I don't have a problem with sitting here keeping your mouth shut.
Okay.
So
So if we just take out the and vacate as chair part, and then, so vacating his chair.
Okay. I will rewrite that just to reflect that they remain in place, but just don't participate. It talks about suspension of rules. The commission will be able to suspend the rules with a vote of at least 3 people. And bylaws may be amended or repealed for stated reasons by affirmative vote of a majority. Following that clause in the ordinance, I think I would need to also say three members, suspension of rules.
Yes, because 2474 says no action shall be taken by the commission except by affirmative vote of at least 3 members.
Right. So I will amend that clause to mirror what it says in section 2. Finally, the last item is an addendum. Probably need to refer to it in some fashion. It talks about just public comment procedures. And once again, all the time limits, and this is essentially what the planning commission is using as at least as a place to start discussion with. Applicant needs to be struck because there are no applicants. Right off the bat. Basically, public comment, no more than 3 minutes per individual or 7 minutes for an individual representing a group. At his discretion, the chair may extend or reduce the time limit of public comment and presentation based on the number of persons present. And utility department staff would be responsible for ensuring that the time limits are followed. Has not been a problem with the meetings as of yet. Procedure, members of the community or individuals or other representatives who believe they have been affected by commission action and desire to comment shall notify staff, the chair, or a member of the commission prior to the start of the commission meeting. I don't know if you'd like that formal or not, or just call for.
Yeah, I'm okay with the call.
Okay, we'll strike that.
I can understand why they have that there, because if they've got an applicant and there's a particular issue on the table that needs addressed, but
I think the next one should be kept in. Speakers shall identify themselves by providing their first and last name, affiliation if applicable, mailing address, and the agenda items or topic they wish to address. Comments are to be directed to the chairperson. Chairperson may request that one spokesman be chosen to represent groups who wish to speak to the commission on a common issue. Persons who engage in disruptive behavior at commission meetings, which includes use of slurs, derogatory comments, or any other conduct, basically if they don't behave, they will not be permitted to participate in future comment. Basically requesting that speakers be courteous in their language and presentation.
I understand the point of that, but to be clear, where it says or any other conduct, I'm guessing that probably ought to read or any other poor conduct. Or misconduct. Just keep it clear.
Other misconduct or poor, which would you prefer? Poor or misconduct?
Just misconduct.
Yeah.
Good.
We don't have to define poor.
Okay. And then finally, the last one, if they wish to, persons wishing to submit written comments, this is going to have to float. Typically, if we send out an agenda on Friday, when would we post it on the web? On Friday as well? So if people have until the Tuesday before the meeting to provide written comment, that would assume that they have had access to the agenda on the internet and can read and contemplate what's there. So that would be the Tuesday before. And,
So what, or I guess my question is, they have until Tuesday for what will happen.
Then they just have to show up and do it as public comment.
So if they don't submit their written comment by Tuesday, then it won't appear before us on
That would be the intent of this. If it's not a problem, they can submit it up to the time of the meeting for the record. You know, this is, once again, this is just following the planning commission. If the commission doesn't feel it's that important, we can strike it.
It doesn't seem that important to me, and it feels like to me that if anybody has anything they want to submit to this commission anytime prior to the meeting, and they want to do it in writing, and it can get on the agenda.
Okay.
I mean, if it's physically possible to put it on there, I think we should accommodate it.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. I assume it was just because they're a little more formal with having time to review, you know, if that's a long comment.
I think they have a lot more comments
Yes,
than we do.
yes, they
Yeah,
can.
probably so.
Strike that. Good.
I got thinking, on the very first page, I want to revisit something. Article 3, Section 1, where we talk about we're gonna elect the officers, and it says it at its first regular meeting. I think we ought to make that business.
First business meeting? Okay.
Yeah, just because regular implies that it's at the regularly scheduled time, and date, and place, and if for some reason it's a special meeting, it could still be the first meeting of the year to get your business done, so just the first business meeting, and that way if we ever add our workshop nights back, it's still the business meeting.
Okay, okay, very good.
Anybody have an issue with that? Other comments, questions on bylaws? And obviously, we're not recommending these nights, so feel free to think about them and mull them over.
Right, yes, if you have any further comments, let me know. Email, just send them in, and then I can.
We're gonna vote on these in March.
March, March 5th. I think the next meeting would probably be fairly lengthy.
Oh, that reminds me, there's something somewhere. Yeah, exactly. Article 4, Section 1, it says we'll start at 7, but we should adjourn by 10.
Right.
I hope we're never here till 10, but I don't know if we really need it. Is there a reason that time
Actually,
is
the reason,
there?
that's when the automatic, I think the HVAC system goes to night mode.
Uh-huh.
I have no problem with that, anything past that, we better off continuing.
We probably should have. I was thinking we would have already decided to do that by then. At least I would.
I think Cindy could probably attest, planning commission's meetings used to go into the wee hours.
We had a 2 o'clock one last.
What?
That's when they used to start.
One to 2.
That's, besides having extremely long meetings, that's when the AC shifts to night mode. Okay, thank you very much, I do appreciate it.
Let's move on to new business item number 2, review of our expense report, the revenue report.
Okay, now this one is not the year end, but it does get you up to, also a comment to, Brian over at Public Works with water and wastewater. We haven't quite got everybody incorporated into the system yet, so we still have an electric show tonight. But one thing he did want me to pass on, should you all, they would be happy to give you all tours of the water and wastewater plant. If you all would like, you can either get a hold of me or Brian, and we can arrange a tour. And I don't know if you've been to either one of the plants, but they're impressive. Wastewater plant, I know you could probably eat off the floor in that place.
We'll have to just wait to see if we get reappointed, if so, then yeah.
And the water plant is excellent too. They all take great pride in what they do and do a great job. But you would enjoy it there. There was a story, Ike Sizemore was the longtime wastewater plant supervisor, and he was giving a tour of a women's group, and they were walking over basically the irrigation place. They said, "My goodness, why is the water so black?" how do you clean it up? Because they thought this was the drinking water plant. I said, well, no, ma'am, this is the water going the other way. So this stops at 92% of the year. Revenues as of there, we're running at 90%. Expenses for the entire operation, which would be administration, generation, and distribution, were at 81%. The highest percentage is in generation, which was in our purchased power. However, we have savings for lack of expenditures in distribution, so we're netting out, so the fund is within budget. It's just we'll be long on the generation program because of the cost of power. The capital outlay and distribution does reflect the $125,000 for the parking lot. It is hit on this one. The purchase of the Derrick Digger backyard machine has not shown up, even though we were trying to encumber it against this budget year.
Dave, do you have any idea why intergovernment sales is only 76%? Out of all of our numbers, usually that one's fairly accurate in the budget. I understand there's still a month to come in, but it just seems like it's low at this point.
So I'm looking at it very quickly.
Second line down.
Yes, I got it. No, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. I can certainly.
Intergovernment is, to City Hall, to
right.
those type of operations. So that one we usually have a fairly good idea. I'm just curious. It's not the end of the world if there's a reason why it's only 76%. But
I will speculate, but let me research that and just provide you all a response by email. It may be that the weather was was more temperate and we weren't running the air conditioner as much. But I'll see if we get an idea. Be happy to check that out and get back with you.
any questions? We'll move to new business item number 3, review of the outage report.
This is the year end. Cindy and Bruce compiled this document. Just in summary, as it states, we had 53 outages last year, including the 2 that were caused by the trips of the main breaker at substation 1. We're working to get that back up after the raccoon incident. Average response time was 15 minutes, and the average length of the outage was about 63 minutes. For comparison, in 2013, we had 46 outages, response time of 19 minutes, and average outage time of 89 minutes.
Those are outstanding numbers, and I'm pretty sure the entire time I've been sitting up here that those numbers have gotten better every year. I remember 22 minutes at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen those numbers go the other direction. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, not only are they amazing, I mean, you couldn't get anywhere near those with KTPL. And continue to improve, so kudos to the staff.
I agree completely. They did an excellent job on this. Look at some of the graph. There's a few. There was one outage that Bruce could probably speak to it back in June. It was about a 12-hour outage. I think only affected one customer. There was a bad breaker.
What was that?
No, that was the one at.
Second page, second down.
Yeah. It was on East Park Street. 300 block of East Park Street. Looks like we responded in the afternoon. It wasn't until early the next morning we were able to get back up.
Oh. Yeah.
Every now and then we get some anomalous situations, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, I kind of remember that was part of the game. where it happened, I don't know what happened there, but it's something to do with inside his house.
Oh, okay, that one, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that one.
But, interesting summary.
Yeah.
In the summaries, we had 20 of the break were due to equipment failure, only 2 were due to trees. Animals were accounted for 23, 3 from storms. Had 1 damaged by others, was some kids threw a football and somehow broke a line.
I bet here my city hall, it's an old copper wire up there, and they get a pair of them shoes, and they get old, and they start working, and kids do it up there at hot wood.
That he was surprised.
Yeah.
Excellent responses. And actually the difference between during work hours responses and after hours responses is 10 minutes versus 19 minutes.
Very, very good.
That's just amazing.
I included a summary also. Cindy and Bruce put this together for us just to look at the tree-related outages as we have continued into our tree program. The year it started, we had 8 tree-related outages affecting 910 customers. You can see as 11 was 3, 12, 2 outages related to trees. In 2013, only 1, and 2014, 2. So it is paying off. Our customers they may not see it directly, but they certainly will not experience the outages. As we always talk about the great ice storm of 2012, we had been embarked on our tree trimming program, had gone very flat, and trees took down probably 50% of the town. So that's, the proof is in the pudding. And the tree program amendment to enter into a 3rd year with Asplin will be on for council consideration next Tuesday.
Questions, comments? Move on to new business item number 4, project update.
Okay. This will come more as just a summary of the year. Staffing-wise, we've been operating short-staffed. We lost our staff electric engineer in September. Engineering technician left in October. Administrative assistant Amy left in July. Cindy started in late October. We have 1 journey meterman position. It's been vacant since March. However, we've been filling that need with a part-time employee. And then we did have, we had 1 journey lineman position was vacated in April, actually, when Brandon left. Bruce moved up, Josh moved up and opened the position. We were able to fill 1 position with an apprentice who started Monday. We've gone back out for the lineman position. The reason we were recommending an apprentice is we were concerned we would not be able to get a lineman. We did interview 1. He did not choose to accept the money we could offer. We'll go back out, see what happens, and reconsider the issue. The only issue with not hiring a lineman and hiring an apprentice is just for after hours. However, the apprentices we are hiring come out of the technical schools, and they are ready to hit the ground and just they will learn, but they do fill the need.
How long does it take for an apprentice to get to lineman status?
4 years.
4 years.
And typically what has happened, the reason that 1 position was reclassified, they will reclassify to apprentice, and then the year that the apprentice will be moving to journey status, that position will be reclassified. It'll be underfilled until they hit journey status, and they'll be just a medium position.
And is that a fixed amount of time, Bruce?
What's that?
Is that 4 years?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, Bruce, correct me, the folks that come out of the trade schools, they get some credit.
They'll get 1,000 hours.
$1,000
You gotta have 8,000 there, so.
And we have had the good fortune over the last several years to be able to acquire folks from the schools, vocational schools, as interns in the summer. In fact, the one fellow that just started with us had worked with us last summer, done an excellent job, and that was interesting. As far as project goes, the distribution staff has reconstructed quite a few projects this year. They did about a quarter mile of overhead line on Oak Street from Kramer to West Shawnee Street. They rebuilt a three-phase overhead line in the alley between Main and Park from South Oak to South Center Streets. Another one on South Poplar between Warren and Main, about 600 feet of three-phase. West Main between Poplar and Oak, 1,620 feet. The three-phase in the alley, which we're finishing up, which is the one that runs between Park and Warren from Oak to Sycamore. The last phase is just to make a connection between one side of Center to the other. Originally, there was plan to go underground along Center. Since that's been put off, we're going to ahead and build the connection as an overhead three-phase. Once something happens, if it should go underground, it's not an issue if we have to change that.
Wasn't it originally going to go underground because of the beautification plan,
Yeah.
but then wasn't there also an issue with water lines there?
Yeah, water, gas line.
So even if we go figure something out with the beautification project or comes back to us, will we have difficulties, you think, when we drill that?
We might, yeah. You
Might have to cut the road.
They might have to, yeah, they might have to do a hole and back down and try to find, you might have to do some patching and stuff.
And then finally, the project for Conestoga, which is along the basically the dual north-south overhead line just west of the Energy Center. The underground work is done. We're just kind of waiting until the weather clears to go in and wreck out the old line. I think the new line was put in 2010. So then we'll get rid of that. So that'll be finished up. Other projects, we've got the generators back up and ready for dispatch. Unit 2 was started in August. Unit 1 was started in September. We finished up the bus duct and switchgear project for Transformer 4. Right now we're just having to wait for 2 connecting small pieces. It's basically in place. We went and picked up the reconstructed, the modified bus duct Friday. It was installed Monday, and we've just got 6 connecting pieces we've got to round up. So once we get that done and tested out Tuesday, so that's very close to being done. Completed the integrated resource plan for Western Area Power Administration. We received approval of that from the Western Area Power Administration this week. So we have posted it on the website, and we are now up and running. One thing too, considering WAPA 2, we just received notice that we have the option to extend power from Western Area Power Administration for 30 years beyond 2024. I need to review that, just came in today. We'll add that to your agenda on the 5th for consideration. We're making a recommendation.
Have we heard any more back from the long-term power contract investigation?
No, we have not. That's kind of, they were looking at some options, and that's kind of gotten quiet, so I don't have anything to report on that.
Yeah, because there was an update a while back where they didn't get enough interest to buy into the nuclear power plants, right?
Right, and that's basically where they still are. We haven't gotten more feedback on that. Thanks for asking that. Began an update for the spill prevention, containment, and countermeasures plan. That was submitted. That's up to me to get that reviewed. Just things got away from me on that. Did contract with Black Hills Energy to manage our gas line. I have a renewal of that contract for this year, which will basically be a turnkey operation. The cost will be about $24,000 just to follow the rules and to keep that running well. Completed the administration building parking lot replacement project. The contract cost was $122,900. O'Donnell basically started and finished it in about 2 weeks. We have received draft bid documents for the replacement of Transformer 1. I'm in the process of reviewing those now. My goal would be to advertise that beginning the 28th of this month. Open bids on the 18th, bring it back to you all for a recommendation to council on March 5th, and present it to the city council on March 16th. We took delivery of 2 leased small electric distribution trucks last summer, and we also received approval to lease replacement large bucket truck and the small dirt digger, and that should be coming in around March this year. And then finally, we received bids and received approval to purchase a new backyard machine from Alltech. It's about a 90 to 120 day delivery once we get the contracts back and signed. So we should be seeing that probably spring. We actually we had the backyard machine out today, and the transformer go bad in the backyard. Use our existing machine to access that. That's all I have.
Questions? That's it for new business. Does any commission member have other business they would like to discuss? Okay. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Meeting is adjourned.